The Positive Pause is a motivational-minded podcast covering topics women want to know about as they journey to and through menopause, focusing on subjects that impact women's health and healthy aging, including what it means to age healthfully. The Positive Pause features experts and influencers from a variety of industries and specialties. The information and opinions expressed on The Positive Pause are not intended to replace the services of trained professionals or to provide specific medical advice. To see the National Menopause Foundation's full medical disclaimer, please visit nationalmenopausefoundation.org.
Welcome to The Positive Pause. I'm Claire Gill, founder of the National Menopause Foundation. Joining me for this episode is Josselyne Herman-Saccio, master coach in the art of being unmessablewith. Josselyne has been leading transformative courses for more than 30 years. She has worked with and impacted over 200,000 people directly in the areas of business, family, self-expression, fulfilling their vision, resolving conflict, and overall well-being. A relationship, communication, and performance expert, and the founder of United Global Shift, her nonprofit organization that has worked with leaders from more than 20 countries and counting. For the past 3.5 decades, Josselyne has worked with a diverse group of people, from executives and entrepreneurs to stay-at-home mothers and community activists, from neuroscientists to Broadway actors, all with a shared common goal: to be expressed, valued, and experience being able to make a difference and fulfill their vision no matter what challenges life throws at them. In her work with both individuals and organizations, she has the honor of guiding many people through the empowering process of becoming unmessablewith. Thank you so much for joining me today, Josselyne.
Oh, it's great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Well, I only touched on a few things of your background.
And I'm exhausted just listening to you. Jeez.
It's amazing. So you've had this incredible career and this wonderful opportunity to curate all of your experiences into a teachable and transformative coaching practice. When did you first realize that you had this gift of empowering yourself and others?
Well, actually, very, very early on. As a teenager, I was always looking for projects that would make a difference, whether it was doing a walk for AIDS or whatever it was. My brother died of AIDS in 1990, so that was super, super important to me. And when I was little, my dream, when I was like 4 years old, was to be a singer. But somewhere along the way, I decided you can't do your art as your career. You know, that became like the truth. And not like something I decided, it was the truth and like solid, right? So I was in a transformative workshop myself as a participant in my early 20s, and I realized that that was not the truth, that that was something I had decided in the infinite wisdom of 5, and it became looser. You know, it wasn't so solid. And within 3 weeks, I got a record deal.
Wow.
And that was like shocking, right? So that woke me up to, it is possible to fulfill your dreams. And I want everybody to have that ability. So I started to lead transformative workshops myself. I was so passionate about it. I started an entertainment company to empower other people to fulfill their dreams in the entertainment world, you know, who were in the same kind of non-reality, I'll call it.
Yeah.
And that was where I got committed. Like, my mission is to empower people to fulfill their dreams and be unmessable with in the process.
Okay, well, that's amazing. But let's go back to those things of getting your record deal.
Yes.
And there are a couple of things that also are part of that reality. You have to be able to sing.
Yes, that is true. That is one of those prerequisites. But the other girls in the group, because it's like a girl group, like a female New Kids on the Block. Okay, that's, you know, basically, you get that, right? You know, most people are like, who? And I'm like, well, so we were a singing group, and the requirement was that you could sing and dance. I was not a dancer. And yes, I was a singer, but I mean, hiding my singing in the closet. I wasn't like being a singer. But in that workshop, I saw that it was possible to be a singer. So I started introducing myself to people as a singer. And within 3 weeks, I got this phone call from this woman who was like, we're putting together this girl group and we're looking for a 5th person. And this friend of yours auditioned for it, but she wasn't right for it. And she said, you're a singer. And I'm thinking to myself, how is this even possible? I mean, I just started introducing myself as a singer 3 weeks ago, you know?
Wow.
But that's what happens. It's not like magical thinking, it's action. You create something and then you act on it. And that's how you fulfill anything. And one of the things I had to do was do a demo and schedule a show. And all those things happened within those 3 weeks.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. But as you said, so often we are put into these boxes of, like wife or mother, or no matter what it is, in your career, even in my early days in public relations, because the first clients I had were food related, I became then this food PR person.
The food PR person.
Right.
Exactly. It's good, bad, and ugly boxes. It's, even like, oh, she's so reliable. Okay. If you're so reliable, then what isn't available to you is to ask for support.
Right.
And that can be a prison as well.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about this unmessable with. So how do you define unmessable with?
Well, I'll tell you what it's not. It's not being tough, and it's not being impervious to your emotions or being able to be resilient. What it really means is to be able to create at any moment versus react. So be able to stand in your vision, your dream, your raison d'etre, your purpose, and act from that space of creation versus getting hooked or stopped or, reasons stopping you or consideration stopping you. So no matter what you're dealing with, whatever circumstance, whatever person, you're able to create with anyone at any time under any circumstance. That's what it looks like to be unmessable with.
That's really important. It's an interesting perspective. And as you said, I don't think that's really how most of us approach our daily lives. So I imagine it takes a lot of coaching to be able to do that. What are some of the hurdles or the roadblocks that you think people face when they start to create, or when they start to uncover that they have a mission or they have a vision that they haven't been fulfilling?
Well, whatever life is throwing at you usually is what messes with you. A lot of common threads in the people that I've worked with are limiting beliefs, kind of like I had about you can't do your art as your career. Like that's the truth. There are so many things like that people relate to as if it's the truth that aren't.
Yeah.
And those things, when we dismantle them in the work that I do with people, all of a sudden there's space to kind of look up and out at what you really want versus deal with what's coming at you. And I think a big part of what messes with people is having to get stuff done. So they get into a mode, right, of, okay, I got to get this done. I got to get that done. I got to get, this project finished. I got to deal with Costco. I got to go, handle the kids, ballet, whatever it is, right? Now that is very common among very successful people. And I work with a lot of successful people, and they're really good reactors. So they're great at reacting to whatever's coming at them, like bullets are coming at them and they can react to them and deflect them. That's a very different muscle than creation. Creation is from nothing. It's a magical space. There's no magic in management. And almost everything that people create, after the initial creation, it shifts over into a management mode or a get stuff done kind of mode, including businesses or marriages or whatever. It's like in the beginning, it's kind of like this, oh, it's so exciting. And I don't even know what I'm doing with this podcast, but I'm just going to schedule people and I'm going to, and it's like even your failures are enlivening. But at some point for everybody, whatever you've created shifts into this kind of going through lifeness of dealing with what the problems are and the challenges and even the good stuff, but it's a different tone. So what I do is I work with people to dismantle those areas where they're getting stuff done and move them back into creation mode, as I call it, so that they can be even managing from a creation space, so they can bring the magic back to their relationships, to their businesses, to their missions, to their well-being, which is the first thing that goes for people is taking care of their well-being.
Yeah. As you were speaking, I mean, all of these things are running in through my mind of these conversations that I've had both with family and friends and my colleagues at work, saying that there doesn't seem to be the time for thinking. We're in that doing mode, as you said, all the time, and trying to carve out space for thinking and being creative, as you said, or visioning and all of those things. It sometimes becomes overwhelming. And as you said, it just goes to the bottom of the list on, oh my God, these things are due today. And then I'm going to get around to that. And I think about that like for work. I think about that for getting myself in shape and
Yep.
prioritizing health and all of those things. We get so stuck in that do mode. So do you have like a simple example of kind of what you do to start people to be able to create that space?
Yeah, it's funny. I was working with a group of people. I was doing group coaching, right? And each of them separately had that issue that you're just talking about. It's like, oh, I get overwhelmed and I don't have time to do this. And I never get overwhelmed. I mean, I literally have not been overwhelmed in probably 30 years. So I really looked at it and I was like, what is the source of overwhelm for people? Because it's not like I don't have a lot to do. I mean, you read my intro. It's not like, and I have 3 kids and I'm taking care of my 90-year-old parents. And, so I put together a calendar workshop, which sounds pretty mundane, but it's not. It's incredibly powerful because what I've found is that people do not function powerfully with their calendar and they don't use it as a canvas to create their life. They use it as like a to-do list in time slots, which is very much conducive to becoming a doing machine versus, okay, what am I creating? Right. What am I being? So I do this whole workshop with people. It's like $19 on my website. It's not a big investment, but it's an hour of how do you use your calendar to create your life versus just track your to-dos. And I think that that's one of the most powerful things. If you can start to really use your calendar and schedule everything. So if you don't schedule working out, whatever that means for you, it's not going to happen. Who are you kidding? May the force be with you. Yeah. If it is not in my calendar, it is not happening. Showering. If I don't put showering in my, good luck. Maybe it'll happen. Maybe it won't. But it has to be in existence outside of your head, because your head is also where your reasons and your fears and your justification, that's where all that lives. So you got to get stuff out of your head and into reality. And I've found the most powerful place to put it is in your calendar. And most people resist that at first. So it's like a discipline. They have to like literally track what they're doing and put it in there. But it's not just putting the to-dos. It's putting the context inside of which you're doing that thing. So what do I mean by that? The context is decisive. And if I hold my finger up and I say to you, okay, inside of the context body part, what is this? What do you say?
Finger.
It's a finger. Right. And if I say, okay, now new context, number, what is it?
Right.
It's a one. But no, the content hasn't shifted. Nothing's altered in the content, but the context alters everything. It alters how you see it, how you relate to it, your mood, your actions. So what I train people to do is create a context for every to do. So if you had going to the gym, you'd be like, okay, well, why? Why are you going to the gym? What are you creating by going to the gym? Creating vitality, go to the gym. So now you've got what you're creating as well as what you're doing.
Oh, I love that.
Isn't that cool?
I really like that. And we'll make sure as we, I talk about this when we're wrapping up, but we'll make sure that we have some of these resources that you're mentioning here that we'll post along with this podcast. So if you're listening, you can find them then related to the podcast. That's fabulous because I love calendars and I love to-do lists and that thing, but I have not obviously been using it to its full potential. So I think that's really fabulous. And that's something to think about because we come up with a million reasons why we're too busy for something. And I was even sharing with some colleagues at work recently, the idea that being busy, all these anti-busy articles, that if you're busy, you're not actually successful. And that takes some getting used to because we think, oh, I'm working so hard. I'm so busy. And that's really not a good thing.
Well, it's funny. I was working with somebody in a course many years ago. It must have been at least 15 years ago. And we were talking about what games are you playing in life? And, you could create a game out of anything. And how you create a game is you say something's more important than something else. So she was a salesperson and she was ineffective at her job. And she realized that the real game she was playing wasn't selling whatever she was selling, wasn't being effective at sales. It was looking busy. So she literally was winning the game of looking busy, but wasn't being effective in her actual job that she was being paid for, called selling whatever she was selling. So she went back into her job that week out of realizing that and started playing the game. Making sales is more important than looking busy. And she tripled her sales like in a week.
Yeah, that is so true. we can all fill our time being busy, and it doesn't mean we're actually accomplishing anything.
Yes. I do a whole thing with people actually when I one-on-one coach them where I do a time, energy, action audit where they track for 2 weeks, every 15 minutes, what action are they taking? What result are they producing? Is it giving them energy? Is it sucking their energy? Is it creating money? Is it not creating money? I mean, it's like a whole audit, like you would do a food audit if you were doing, it's like an action audit. And people see so much time is wasted and they're accomplishing nothing. They're not producing the results. So they can start to create. What are they going to offload? What are they going to delegate? What are they going to just stop because it's not productive? Like how many hours do you need to be on Instagram? I don't know. But once you track it, it's like, is this really the best use of my time? I don't know.
That's right. And like you said, if it wasn't on your calendar to waste time on Instagram or social, you wouldn't be doing. I think this is so fast. So let's shift a little bit into the midlife time.
Yes, absolutely. And my time.
Reinventing, because this is a perfect time, I think, in life for women to take stock of what we've been doing and how we've been doing it and think about what we might want to change, like a health checkup for us across our lives. But I find, especially with menopause and the energy suck that happens to us, that, oh my God, there's so many things I want to be doing. What I really want to do is crawl into bed and pull the covers over my head. So getting out of that and putting that into something creative is super, super important. So given that women aren't really looked at as being exceptional or entrepreneurial or creative once we hit midlife, once we're out of our productive years, all of a sudden, society tells us that this isn't valuable anymore. How do you approach women who are coming into that midlife journey and sort of saying, I think I want to do something, I'm not quite sure? How do you work with women who are at that time of life?
70% of my clients are women. And they're all in their 40s and 50s. So it's pretty much, that's my people. Okay. I mean, I have some younger ones, but that's pretty much my peeps. Right.
Yeah.
And the first thing I deal with well-being and immediately, because if you don't know what's going on with your hormones and you are dealing with that, you have to know what's happening. In order to impact reality, you have to be conscious of reality. So I have people go get checked if they're dealing with those kind of symptoms. I know for myself, when I started to go through menopause and I didn't know I was going through menopause, I just thought I didn't care about anything anymore. I didn't care about anything. I was like vision schmision, like who cares? I just want to sleep or watch TV or whatever. And I had a lot of work to do. So I had to kind of get myself up for it, but it took everything. I was always exhausted. I wasn't sleeping, all that kind of stuff. So the first thing you need to do is tend to your well-being, because if you're not sleeping, if you're not hydrating, if you're not taking care of all those kind of things, you can't create anything, never mind your vision. Now, I'm going to be 56 this summer. And last year I completed a 30-year career at Landmark. I led the forum and the advanced course for Landmark, which is a self-development company, for 30 years. And I gave them a year's notice. So I was like coming up, found out I was in menopause, dealt with all the physical things, got myself to like a baseline of being able to have energy and wear jeans again. Like I was just like, okay, I feel like a human. Yeah. And then I was really looking, okay, what do I want the next 10, 15, 20 years of my life to look like?
Yeah.
And so I gave my notice. I took a year to turn everything over. And I said, I'm going to take 3 months and do nothing. So I have an empty slate. And I took 3 months off. I planned my daughter's wedding. I went to Europe for a month. I mean, tough life, right? And then I came out of it like, I'm going to really build this art of being unmessable with thing that I've been working on for 25 years with people informally. Yeah. And I'm going to create it. And I have never been more creative in my life. I've never been happier. I created moving to Paris. Yeah. This was a 40-year dream. So my 50s, second half of my life, is the most creative I think I've been. I can't even say since when, because I'm at an age where I have a breadth of work underneath me. Like, yes. People of our age, or I'm probably older than you, but of this age, no, not much. Okay. But in any case, you have a lifetime of experience. So you have more than 10,000 hours of something.
Yes.
And it takes 10,000 hours to master anything. So you are a master at something.
That's so
and whether that's what you want to do or not is irrelevant. you have to realize who you are and what you're capable of and what you have accomplished. And most people don't.
They don't. And I think that's one of the things I love hearing you talk about this, because it is something that I think women, for some reason, need permission to think about and to hear about, oh, wait, I have time for me now to do what makes sense to me, what makes me creative, what makes me passionate. And, we spend a lot of time obviously talking about what the symptoms of menopause are and how do you treat the symptoms. But the flip side of that with our organization is also empowering women, inspiring them, because much like you, every decade of my life has been more exciting than the previous one. And I'm literally, when I think about what's to come, it is, well, why wouldn't that continue? And that makes me excited. And as you said, you have to get over the reality is our bodies are changing. Things are changing. The dynamic is changing for us. And as you said, making sure that we make ourselves healthy and we get the support we need.
So important.
Physically, from, medicinally, however you need to do it. But then that does give you that energy and that space to think about, good gracious, we're all living longer. We're living better lives, more active lives. What am I going to do now that's going to set me up for those next 20 years? And that becomes really exciting.
Because if you don't have a vision, it's pretty much just, that's pretty much how life is. My father's 90, my mother's 92. She's got dementia, but her vision is her family, so she is fulfilled every day because she's bringing life and love to her family. And my father is painting and, he's becoming a known artist at 90. Why not? What are you going to do with your time?
That's what, I was talking with other people too about that whole idea of how we do it here, particularly in the US on, you work yourself to death and then to reach retirement, right? This golden time. And then it's just like this drop when you stop that, what you thought was your life's work and your passion and stuff, and you're left lost. And I always think the success to healthy aging or active aging is having a purpose. And that purpose could be, like you said, it could be something entrepreneurial or new or creative undertaking. Or it could be, something you're all in on being a grandmother and being a really active grandmother. Terrific. But, again, thinking about what that means for us is a very different mindset than I think what we were raised to do thinking. No one ever, we talk about the same thing about knowing what menopause is. We get educated about everything up until the reproductive years.
Yes.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And we don't think about this kind of thing either. What brings us joy and how does that change? And, what are we going to do next?
And it does change and you have to check in on it like regularly. I check in on it like weekly, but at least every 6 months to a year, it's smart to do a check-in. And I would recommend for people that are in partnerships with spouses or whatever, to do that with your partner and look at, okay, what is our vision for this year? And then in mid-year, okay, where are we with what we wanted to accomplish? And is that still what we want? And do we need to etch that in sand and change it and really keep the future that you're creating, not the predictable future, but the one you're creating alive and real. So it doesn't shift over into that management mode.
Yeah.
Because there's no magic there.
There's no magic there. Although, what do you think about it? I feel though sometimes I need those, I call them stuffing envelopes days, where I just want to do something a little mindless and just take care of the admin type things on it because I'm just not feeling it to kind of get through, to get through the day kind of stuff. Do you have days like that too? And then you just...
I don't have days like that. Yeah. I schedule time for that.
Oh.
Almost every day I schedule admin time or I schedule recharge time too.
Interesting.
Sometime in the afternoon, I've seen a pattern. People get sometimes they're really good in the morning and then they start to peter out after lunch or something. So I schedule, that's how I am. So right around 2:00 or something, I will schedule a half hour of recharge time. Now, what is that? I don't know what that is. It could be I'm just laying watching the news, mindlessly, or it could be that I have a cup of coffee or I go for a walk or whatever it is. But if I don't schedule that, I'll go back to back to back to back to back to back. And, it doesn't necessarily, it's not a problem, but it's also not responsible. Right. It's like me not being responsible for putting gas in the car.
Yeah.
And I think that if admin time is sort of that nurturing time for you where you don't have to create or generate, then you schedule it where it kind of breaks up the day and gives you that respite.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing. I think of myself as being organized, but as we're having this conversation, I realize, not really. I could do so much better to fit it in. But I'm just so thrilled and excited that there are women like you available for women to get inspiration from and to tap into and to work with if they so desire to sort of create that. So I wonder, where do you go for inspiration to be unmessable with?
I have coaches. I have coaches in any area of my life that I give a hoot about. I have a coach. From my well-being to my coaching. I have a coach that coaches me on my coach. I mean, I think coaching is a mindset. It's not a thing you do as I say, not as I do. You have to be coachable to be a good coach.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Because being a coach isn't like knowing something. It's being able to see what the person doesn't see. So you can point them someplace that they might not have access to. So I want somebody to do that for me. I don't know everything. I mean, that would be insane. Thank God. Otherwise, then what's the point? So yeah, I have coaches and I have mentors and,
That's such a fantastic point, because it is that even the experts need experts to bounce things off of. And
totally.
I love that idea too of just being able to see something that others don't see. And I think that is an incredible art, because it requires such incredible listening skills. We could do a whole nother podcast.
Yes.
Listening and communication skills that we have to develop. But it's important to think that we all need help in getting where we're going. So I love
I mean, the minute you think you know it all, first of all, any master of anything will tell you they've never reached the top of that mountain. That's a true master. Anybody who's like, yeah, I know everything there is to know about violin. Well, I don't want to listen to them play violin because they're not discovering anymore.
Yeah, that's right.
And discovery is a very powerful place. That's where magic, that's where breakthroughs happen. Breakthroughs don't happen from something and regurgitating it on somebody and giving them some sort of process. That's why all the work that I do with people is very customized. I mean, I have courses and stuff for like the easier access for people. Yeah. But if I'm interacting with somebody, I got to get in their world and find out what are they dealing with and what is it that is in the way of them being fully expressed and fully fulfilled and satisfied. And so.
Yeah, that's to me, like you said, that's very different, like for person to person. What's yours is going to be very different from mine, which is pretty much just about everything in the female experience, I think.
Yes. And men too. It's the same thing. I hate to say it, but there's not much difference. It's people. It's being human. It's kind of what we were born with.
That's right. That's right. Well, we could go on forever, but I do need to wrap up this particular podcast, and definitely hope that we can have a chance to bring you back and talk more. But just as a final note, given all of your experience with coaching, what is one piece of advice you want all women to know, women of any age? What would be one thing you would want to share with them?
Well, get clear about what you want and then act on it.
Yeah.
And if you don't take actions, nothing is going to happen. So put those actions in your calendar.
I love putting actions in the calendar. I'm absolutely going to take that calendar course. I'm really urgent to figure out how I can master mine, because there seem to be so many of them. Yeah, I love that. Here's the thing, that it doesn't happen without actually acting.
Nothing happens with that. No result gets produced without actions. People think, if I just intend it, if I just believe it. I don't care if you believe it or not. If you go to the gym and you do sit-ups, you're going to get abs of steel. Whether you believe it or not is irrelevant. So people work on trying to believe in things. Don't worry about believing in it. Just do it.
Yeah, and as you said, as you're doing it, it proves your belief system. So yeah.
The feelings follow. Exactly.
It just takes hard work. Everything takes that action, and we're going to have to do it. So that's something good to end on. Thank you so much, Josselyne, for sharing.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Your expertise. This is great. As I mentioned, we'll include additional resources and information about you in the notes for this episode, so our listeners can follow up and learn more about you and your work. And to our listeners, I hope you've enjoyed this episode as much as I have. If so, please subscribe to the Positive Pause podcast so you never miss an episode. And please share the information about this podcast with your family and friends. Thank you again to my guest, Josselyne Herman-Saccio, and thank you for listening. We hope you'll tune in for another episode of The Positive Pause.